Hey now, happy Wednesday afternoon, and welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuis here with you today. And we appreciate you spending some of your afternoon hours with us. Plenty of college basketball to get to in this 3 o'clock hour of the show today. We're going to get to our picks, our bracket picks for the 2025 NCAA Men's Division I basketball tournament. The games will start before we are on the air tomorrow, and thus, that is why we are going to get to those today. So we'll make our picks here in just a few minutes. We will also recap, and you can probably tell it was exciting because my voice is at 65% right now. We will get to yesterday's historic win for Washburn, blowing out MSU Moorhead 93-65. I cannot believe still that was the final score. I could not be happier for the guys in blue and white from Washburn. They played their tails off. I thought winning by 10 would be an awesome win, honestly. And then they went out and won by 28. It was incredible stuff last night at Lee Arena. Hopefully you were there, and if not, hopefully you got to listen along over on Country 106.9. So we'll talk about that game coming up here in a few minutes as well. Also this hour, how about a little spring training baseball? We will be joined by our good buddy Max Rieper of Royals Review. He is going to swing by and hang out with us today, talk about some Royals baseball, as we are now just 8 days away from the start of the Major League Baseball season. That is right. Royals opening day is coming up on Thursday, and the Royals, you probably already know this, are opening against the Guardians. Afternoon game. We won't have a show that day, this coming Thursday. We are so excited to have Royals baseball back on the airwaves. We'll talk about it all with Max Rieper, get some of his thoughts on the spring, Jack Caglione, the rotation, all that coming up at the bottom of this hour. Also coming up later on the show today, we'll be joined by Tim Fitzgerald, of course, a Wednesday staple, the Wildcat Wrap-up with Tim from GoPowerCat.com. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Ryan Mo Winkle and Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. Plus, have the Chiefs actually gotten better so far this offseason? I saw this question asked by the guys over at the KC Lab podcast on KC Sports Network. Have the Chiefs gotten better? And I think they probably have, but I do think there is still more work to be done, whether in the draft, whether in street free agents, the guys who are going to linger into the summer. I do think there is still some work the Chiefs need to do to continue building this roster as we head toward training camp in 2025. So that is coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. We'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we are out of here early. That's right. Another day, and again, we're out of here early. Lucky you, or I'm sorry to you. Either way, we're out at 5:30 because of Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament. First 4, round 2 coming up tonight. Our 2 games in the play-in round of the postseason. This evening, it is going to be Mount St. Mary's, not to be confused with the St. Mary's in California. This is Mount St. Mary's taking on American, not just a person from the country, no, American University. And then Xavier versus Texas in the nightcap tonight. We're going to pick both of those games coming up later on this evening. We want to hear from you today. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also find us on YouTube. Head to youtube.com. Search 580 Sports Talk. It's that simple. youtube.com. Enter. Okay, here I am. Search bar. 580 Sports Talk. Okay, enter again. Boom. There we are, right there. Click on the channel. Click on the video. Subscribe to us while you are there. And you can hang out with us watching the video all day long today. You can jump into the comment section. Good to see everybody who's already hanging out in there. A little bit surprised that I still have any voice at all. You can tell it's a little bit hoarse. It's not hurting. It's taking a little more energy maybe to get it out so far. If you didn't know, or I hadn't heard me mention it, last night, obviously, Washburn in the regional final, a huge game against MSU Moorhead. I was doing the play-by-play for the entire Central Region tournament. I took care of it, obviously, for our Washburn games over on Country 106.9, for our hometown broadcast. also did the video streams for the MIAA network and NCAA.com. And that's a lot of basketball. That's 7 games in 4 days. And it was fun. One of the most fulfilling weekends of my entire life professionally. It was a lot of energy burned, though, and a lot of strain on the old vocal cords. So they're a little bit worn. We'll get through it, and thankfully won't be another 6 days until I'm calling a game from Evansville, Indiana. More on that, though, coming up a little bit later on in the show. I do want to address one housekeeping note before we get started with our bracket picks. This is a text in from the 913 on the text line. Again, 785-272-9429, asking if we are going to do tickets for opening day for the Royals. So just to keep things, all so you guys know, we don't like to keep secrets from anyone, keep anything hidden. We're doing something a little bit differently with ticket giveaways this year. We're not sure if we're going to have the same volume of games we've got tickets available to. Just to be as blunt as I can be, that is not a 580 WIBW decision. That is a decision that was not made by us on this show, by Dan, by the radio station or Alpha Media. That was not our decision. So we're working on how we're going to do tickets. We're not sure if we're going to have any to give away for opening day. We will have some over the course of the summer. We know that is going to be true. Might just be doing it a little bit differently come this year. So we'll keep you posted if we have tickets for opening day, opening weekend, what have you. So we will have ticket giveaways this year. Might just be handled a little bit differently than we've done the giveaways in the past. All right, Spencer, are you ready for our bracket picks?
I'm back. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's
finish some ag business.
All right, let's get to the full bracket here. Let's just start. We'll just go clockwise around the bracket. We don't necessarily need to pick every game, but we're going to hit the high points, the key games, all of that from each quadrant of the bracket. So if you're playing along, 2 things. 1, join our bracket challenge. It's on ESPN. Spencer's got the link for it. We'll share it in the YouTube comments. We'll tweet it out again today, Spencer, if you can take care of that. We'll tweet out the link again. We'll post it on the Facebook page again. You can enter, be a part of it, have some fun with us. It's just for bragging rights. It's free to join. You can play with us. Dan's going to be a part of it as well. You can see who from the 580 Sports Talk commentariat you can beat with your bracket this year. Again, we'll get those links out so you can find them ASAP. All right, Spencer, let's start in the top left of the bracket. That is the South Regional with Auburn as the number 1 overall seed in the tournament and number 1 in this region as well. This is the bracket that gave me my wildest Elite 8 matchup. Let's talk about the number 1 seed first, Auburn. The more I've thought about it, the more I would really, really hate their draw if I was the top overall seed, because I think they got by far the toughest 8-9 pairing of any of the regions.
Oh, yeah.
Louisville is better than an 8. It was a bad year for the ACC. Louisville is a better team than an 8. You could probably argue Creighton is better than a 9. Maybe Creighton belongs as an 8 instead. I have Louisville beating Auburn in the round of 32. Auburn has dealt with some injuries. They have started to peter out a little bit as the season has gone on. I was a firm believer in Auburn as the national championship favorites probably until the last week or so. Dan and I went back and forth about that. In fact, I think Auburn is going to get bounced. That is my biggest early tournament upset. Where do you have Auburn going?
I have Auburn going to the Sweet 16.
Okay. Who do you have them falling to there?
Michigan.
Okay. I also have Michigan making it to the Sweet 16. UC San Diego is one of the best stories in college basketball this year. They're a 12 seed. That's a very, very, very sexy pick. I think Michigan is going to take care of business against UC San Diego. Sorry, Tritons. Cool name, cool story. I've got Michigan coming off of that Big Ten Conference Tournament championship. I do have Yale beating Texas A&M. I don't really trust Buzz Williams, to be honest with you. But I've got Michigan going to the Sweet 16 where they'll play Louisville. My other Sweet 16 from this regional, Iowa State versus Michigan State. I think this is such a nice, easy path, relatively speaking, for Iowa State. And frankly, for Michigan State as well. I've even got Marquette getting upset. So I think Michigan State has a breeze of a trip to the Sweet 16. And I'm going to take Michigan State over Iowa State to get to the Elite 8.
Wow.
Yeah. I need to see it. And I know Iowa State made a good run last year. I understand that. But I don't know. There's something about that matchup that makes me lean with Iowa State or with Michigan State, even if I think some of the Tom Izzo stuff can be overrated. So what ends up being your Elite Eight, and who is your Final Four pick out of the South Regional?
South region, it would be hold on. Oh,
Top left corner.
I've got Michigan.
Yeah. Into the Final Four.
Yeah, I have them beating Iowa State because I have Iowa State beating Michigan State.
Okay.
And I can't put Iowa State in my Final Four.
Dealing with injuries is tough for them. Not having Keyshawn Gilbert is brutal for them. Do you think, real quick, and it's irrelevant now because the tournament has been seeded, the fact that TJ Otzelberger didn't mention that he was out for the tournament until after the committee announced the seeds, do you think that made an impact on getting them a 3 instead of maybe a 4?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the committee has said so themselves that player availability gives them the ability to seed teams differently or put them in the tournament at all.
Mm-hmm.
They said so when explaining UNC getting it over West Virginia.
Yeah.
They said without Tucker DeVries, you have 1 star on that team and you don't have 2.
Right. No,
so,
you're right about that.
By what they've said publicly, that's where I'm going.
No, I think that is totally fair. I think that is I think that's the right way to go about it. I'm right there with you. All right. So that's the South Regional. We'll get to the Final Four coming up in a little bit. Let's move across to the upper right corner of the bracket. And I'll just tell you right off the rip, I've got Duke winning it all. I know that bothers a lot of people.
Wow.
I know we
have the same bracket.
Do we really?
We have the same winner.
How about that? I think they're the best team right now, man, even out of that crappy conference. And maybe that doesn't prepare them super well for the tournament. But I think not only are they the best team right now, I think they got such a lucky draw.
Yeah.
I think this is the easiest region for a 1.
Yeah.
And pretty obviously.
I think Cooper Flagg, he was hurt, but I think giving him that rest of the time off helps him tremendously, because if it was just a little sprain, like he could have, like, if they were a mid-major school and he was a mid-major player, he probably would have played in the rest of the conference tournament.
Probably.
Yeah. And if they had to win the conference title to make the NCAA tournament,
probably would have been out there.
He would have been out there, I think.
I understand why people hate Duke. And I don't like Duke. I'm not over here, being Dick Vitale Duke fan. But they've got the best player. I think they've got really good depth. I think Malawach is a good player. Not having Malik Brown is going to be hard. I don't think Shire is an especially great coach. I don't think he's bad at it. I don't think he's a tactician by any means. But I think they just have too much talent to at least get to the Final Four out of this bracket. What is your Elite Eight matchup? Who do you have Duke beating to get to the Final Four?
I have it as chalk. I have them beating Bama.
Okay. I have Alabama losing to BYU. Talk me off the ledge here. Am I buying too far into BYU?
I think
like
so.
Kevin Young. I like what they run. I like their talent, even if it's not a ton of NBA guys. Am I overselling some of this? Because they got a 6 seed for a reason.
Yeah, I think this isn't their year. That's just what I think. I think maybe they'll be better next year.
They are going to have the number 1 recruit in the country next year.
Yeah.
AJ Dabansa.
I think that might help them, but
that's pretty crazy.
I think Bama is just too much of an experienced team, and I think they get over the hump over BYU.
They don't shoot the 3 quite as well as they did last year, but I did see a fascinating stat today. Evan Miyakawa, he runs evanmia.com. It's not quite Ken Palm, but he does a bunch of different various advanced basketball analytics, graphs and charts and explanations and whatnot. And he has a stat he keeps track of called kill shots. And it's 10-0 runs, essentially. How often do you get them? How often do you give them up? A 10-0 run in a game. And his stats indicate that the team that has more 10-0 runs or better in any given game wins 81% of the time. Nobody gives up of the tournament field. Nobody allows 10-0 runs less often than Alabama does. So either they're getting enough stops or they just score enough that they're able to avoid that happening. I think that's a very interesting note. I just think BYU is riding a confidence high right now. I'm going to go with the Cougars to make it to the Elite Eight before falling to Duke. Any major upsets for you in this bracket? I went in the first round, I hate doing this. I went chalk the entire way, 1 through 8, all winning their first game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, yeah, I had the same. I didn't even. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody really there.
I think St. Mary's is a little bit vulnerable to 10 seed Vanderbilt. I understand why some people are picking Liberty over Oregon or picking Akron over Arizona. I just couldn't pull the trigger. So I went chalk all the way. My only upset in the entire bracket, I picked BYU over Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's what I picked as well.
Yeah, okay. So we have pretty much like the exact same bracket at this
yeah,
point.
Our East is almost exactly the same, except for I have Bama to play Duke.
Right. All right, so let's move from top right to bottom right. The Midwest region, Houston is the number 1 seed here. How far do you have the Houston Cougars going?
I have the Houston Cougars going to my Final Four.
All right, I'm going to have to make some adjustments here because I also have Houston going to my Final Four. All right, we're going to have to make some changes here.
I also think I have to make some changes because I had something done and then I saw there was news about a coach.
All right, so this is in this read. I assume you're talking about
I'm talking about McNeese, yes.
Okay, so let's get to that.
Because I had Houston versus McNeese, and now I don't think...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I had McNeese winning against Clemson too, but getting knocked out in the round of 32. All right, so the big basketball news of the day today is that Will Wade, who has been at McNeese State the last few years after getting ousted from LSU, you guys remember the FBI investigation into college basketball. Will Wade getting caught on phones, talking about giving a player a strong-ass offer. Yeah. He's a hell of a coach. Probably a dirtbag, but a hell of a basketball coach. He is taking the head job at North Carolina State. He was asked about it during his press conference today, and he said, yes, I have talked to them about that job. And then 2 hours later, it was announced, oh, yeah, by the way, he's taking that job and replacing Kevin Keats. So McNeese is playing tomorrow at 2:15, barely over 24 hours after their head coach announced that he's leaving.
Is he coaching?
He is coaching. He's going to coach through the tournament.
See, it's so confusing because in college basketball, usually you see coaches coach through their season, but then in football, like the coach will just up and leave and forget about the bowl game.
I think a large portion of that is transfer recruiting.
Yeah.
Because like the portal doesn't
because of the way that portal works in football compared to how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. Which for what it's worth, I hate. I don't like that. But I would assume that's why. Like if the portal was already open, I bet he's gone. I bet they have an assistant coach. But that would screw with the tournament so much.
Yeah.
That would be so bad.
I picked McNeese over Clemson, and then I have a matchup of High Point and McNeese.
Me too. But you picked McNeese to win?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I have High Point winning now, or going all the way to the Sweet 16.
I think I'm going to swap my pick and do the same thing.
Man.
Only because
we're gonna have to make some changes here.
I mean, yes, but I made this bracket and didn't even see that news yet. And I was like, well, it's too much of a distraction for them.
All right, so your Elite 8 matchup in the Midwest is Houston versus who?
Houston versus Tennessee.
All right,
I got the chalk.
I'm gonna make a brand new bracket. I'm gonna have to scrub this whole thing and start again. You kidding me? Unbelievable. Yeah, I've got Tennessee.
We can't even see each other's brackets either. No,
this is totally a fluke.
Yeah,
entirely a fluke. I told Spencer early today, like, hey, leading off the show, make sure your bracket is done because we're going to do bracket picks to start the show. So this was totally, and I've been in my office working all day making calls. Like this was totally a fluke. I was tempted to pick Kentucky. I think Kentucky's got the juice with Kobe Brea, Lamont Butler. I think they've got the juice to make it there. I'm even going to switch that pick right now.
Wow.
I'm going to flip it to Kentucky. Man, I have KU winning one game and Kentucky and Duke both making big runs. That's gross. But I've got Houston still beating Kentucky to make it to the Final Four. All right, final quadrant, West bracket. Florida is the 1. This is where KU is the 7 seed taking on Arkansas. How many games do you have KU winning?
Exactly 1.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think they'll get past St. John's.
I know Michael Swain said yesterday he thinks it might not be a completely unfavorable matchup because he thinks St. John's is a weaker number 2 seed. I don't necessarily disagree, although I would take St. John's over Tennessee, to be honest with you.
I'm definitely convinced that Kansas is going to get a win in the first round because Arkansas is going to be without one of their top players.
Yeah, not having Thero down low is tough.
Yeah,
that's tough.
I had the pick just because it was Kansas, and now I'm like fully convinced, like I think they will win. I was kind of leaning on the side of, yeah, they're gonna pull it out because it's the tournament and it's Kansas, and they're not going to be they're not going to get in the game or be one game and done. They'll get one win and done maybe, but yeah, I've got Kansas fully winning one game.
All right, I've got a pair of upsets in this region, double-digit seed upsets in this region. I've got Colorado State beating Memphis in the first round. The analytics say Memphis should be seeded way lower and Colorado State at least a spot or two higher. The Rams are favored as the 12 seed.
Oh, yeah.
In Vegas.
They're favored by 1.5.
Oh, is it just 1.5 now?
Well, according to
3.5.
According to ESPN bet, it's 1.5 on the ESPN bracket.
Let's see. Okay, so that has actually moved considerably toward Memphis.
I still think Colorado State wins that.
Our folks at Prairie Band, it's also moved there. It's got Colorado State -2. Interesting. Okay. That's moved 1.5 to 2 points depending on where you're looking. I'm picking Drake.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm suckering myself into being disappointed, but I'm picking Drake.
I'm picking Drake as well.
Okay, so we both got the Drake upset. Florida. I heard John Rothstein this week say he thinks if Florida had a coach who was more likable and had a higher profile, he thinks people would be picking Florida to win the whole thing. I've got Florida losing in the Sweet 16 to Maryland. All right.
You can't make this stuff up.
Are you serious?
Yes, I have Maryland against St. John's.
St. John's or Maryland, who'd you pick?
I picked St. John's.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm picking Maryland now. I'm picking it on the fly. Maryland to the Final Four. Julian Reese going to lead Maryland to the Final Four. Are you kidding me, dude? That's ridiculous. All right, so your Final Four and national championship game, what do they look like?
Final Four, I've got St. John's over Michigan, Duke over Houston, and I've got Duke over St. John's. And the total points in that game I have is 146.
Yes, because we have to pick that for the ESPN tiebreaker.
Yes.
I've got Duke over Michigan State. I'll take Sparty to beat Maryland in a Big Ten rematch in the Final Four, Duke to beat Houston, and I've got Duke winning it all, taking down Michigan State. That is ridiculous. I'm going to have to rebuild my entire bracket now. Let's get to a commercial break. We'll talk a little bit more bracket later on in the show. When we come back, I will recap last night's Washburn win over MSU Moorhead. What a night it was at Lee Arena. The final game at the old Lee Arena, by the way. And we will also talk to Max Rieper of Royals Review coming up later this hour. We're just getting started on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk.
20 seconds to go. Moorhead calls off the Dogs. And for the first time in 24 years, Washburn wins the region. And Washburn is headed to the Elite Eight. Greatness calls, and the Ichabod's answer. 93-65.
What a night it was at Lee Arena. March 18th, 2025. Washburn advances to the Elite Eight for the first time in 24 years. Absolutely smoking MSU Moorhead, 93-65. It was a 4-point game with 33 seconds to go in the first half. It was a 6-point game at the half. And then Washburn just hit another level that even for a team that all season long has found a way to hit another level, that felt different. That felt special last night. All tournament team was announced after the game, featuring 3 players from Washburn, including Jacob Hanna, who was the tournament MVP for the Central region. It was just an unbelievably special player. The whole group, just absolutely incredible. You got to go out and see this team earlier this year, Spencer. You know the kind of things they can do.
Yeah.
And last night, I was asked about this by Liam Keating, who covers sports for the Capital Journal. He was kind enough to ask me to do a recap with them for the CJ. And, you know, he asked what's improved? Like, how have you seen this team improve over time? And I said, you know, it's less so like, oh, they improved their ball handling or they became better shooters. It was just they already did all these great things. And as the year went on, as the months went by, the games went by, they just did all of those things to a higher level. Like they were running things at an A- level, then an A, then an A+, then an S tier level. Like it just kept leveling up the entire season. They play together. They do the right things. Jacob Hanna, man, I cannot say enough about this dude. It makes me, I don't want to say sad because I know he had a great career at Illinois Springfield where he was before, and he transfers to Washburn so he can play closer to home. Chose Washburn over multiple options to go D1. Decided he bought into what Brett Ballard was selling on him, wanted to play close to home. He's from Wichita, went to Mays High, and in one of the best individual seasons in the history of Washburn basketball, a program that's existed for 125 years. Jack Batchelor, kid from Topeka, and I know we are so lucky to have gotten to see him for years. I called 3 years of his high school basketball career at Washburn Rural, now his first 2 years in college. That dude is a stud. He was great, had 10 assists for the 4th time this season, just 1 turnover. Andrew Orr, one of my favorite players of all time, he was great. Brayton Shorter's been struggling from the floor recently. He was great. Michael Keegan got hurt during the game, then came back in, and he was just absolutely awesome. Man, that was a blast last night. That was one of the most fun basketball games I've ever been to, let alone called. And headed to Evansville, Indiana, man. I'm excited.
I've got a question for you.
Fire away.
So I thought that earlier in the season, obviously things were rolling. They were undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose those 2 back-to-back road conference games at Arkansas, Fort Smith, at Northeastern State. Do you think those losses came at maybe the best time? Because then they got the ability to bounce back, win the final 4 regular season games, and then they go into the tournament all riding high, the MIAA tournament, unfortunately fall, and then they get the chance to still host and win 3 straight in pretty much dominant fashion across the board at the Central Regional.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because Brett Ballard told me after the Fort Smith game, like, look, you never want to lose, but there are times when you can use the loss as a teaching moment, you can learn from it, and hey, it's a chance to sort of reset, see what we need to work on, and go from there. Then obviously you lose 2 days later, and that was a tough one against Northeastern too. But I do think it was a chance for this group to see, okay, what are some of the things we need to fine-tune to make the postseason run? They're playing with confidence. I know they wanted to go deeper in the MIAA tournament, but got an extra couple days rest, frankly, which I'm sure helped. This team looked as fresh as can be, whereas MSU Moorhead last night, final 10 minutes, no legs. I mean, they just were completely gassed. Washburn was running them up and down the court. Man, that was a fun game. Hope y'all are coming to Evansville. It's going to be a blast next week. Washburn will open Tuesday night next week, March 25th, 8:30 tip-off. It's going to be a late one, taking on Lenore Rhine. I will be there, of course, and the coverage will all be heard over on Country 106.9. Let's get to a timeout. Max Rieper of Royals Review joins us next to talk spring training baseball here on 580 Sports Talk. 3:40 here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis here with you. Have a text in from the 816, big Baker Wildcats fan chiming in on the show. Want to remind us, Coach Brett Ballard at Washburn coached at Baker. That's right. His first head coaching job was of the Baker Wildcats over in Baldwin. They're having a heck of a year. Derek Johnson, play-by-play guy for Baker. Man, he does a great job too. Great dude. Also, KU grad. Throw that in there. But we move now from the hardwood to the diamond. We are 8 days away from opening day. And as we get ready for Royals baseball, we welcome in our good friend, Max Rieper, editor-in-chief of Royals Review at SB Nation. That is royalsreview.com. Max, great to hear from you, man. Happy spring training. I'll just start with the big picture, easy one here. How fired up are you for this Royals season just 8 days away?
It's you got to be pretty optimistic for this season. We haven't had optimism, at least not in this degree, going into a season since the core of that championship team. I mean, we've been hearing about this rebuild, and every year I think there's always a little skepticism. Okay, we're in the show me state. Let's wait till we see something happen. Last year's unexpected run, I think, has really energized this fan base. Not just that they made the playoffs, but they did so with a core of exciting young players like Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and a solid pitching staff that includes opening day starter Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, who's an all-star as well. And of course, the future looks bright too with a guy like Jack Caglianone, who, just super impressive in Major League camp. You have to feel really good about the direction this franchise is going, not just, last year, but for several years. It looks like they have what could be a sustainable winner for the next few years. So definitely a lot of reasons to be excited for this team.
Let's talk about Caglianone, because obviously he is who I think more people want to talk about Caglianone than want to talk about Bobby Witt or Cole Reagan's going into this year, which is awesome that the Royals were able to draft a guy like that. Obviously had the great pedigree from the University of Florida. He's going to start the year in the minors. I think that's the right thing to do. I think most rational fans too believe that that's the right thing to do. Do you think there's even an outside chance we see Caglianone with the big club in 2025?
Oh yeah, I think what he did in the spring, first of all, super impressive for a kid who a year ago was in the SEC, playing against college kids, to come into a major league camp. And we know the spring training is mixed. There's mixed pitchers out there, right? There's some guys, the major leaguers. There's also some guys who are AAA guys, AA guys. But for him to do what he did, super impressive. Not just the home runs, because we knew about the power, but the lack of strikeouts, I think, is super impressive. And yeah, it's only 17 at bats, but he looked like a very mature kid out there who knew what he was doing at the plate. So a lot of reason to be optimistic. And I think I agree with you. The Royals made the right move. Don't get caught up in the hype. Let's stick with the plan. Let him work on his game in AA, get a full professional season under his belt. But at the end of the year, if the Royals need a bat off the bench that can provide some pop, and he's having a good season in AA, absolutely call him up, see what he can do, give him a taste of the action. Hopefully the team's in a pennant race, and give him a taste of what that's like. And I think that could pay dividends down the future. So a lot of reasons, this lineup, I know the team didn't address the offense like a lot of fans wanted them to, but we'll see how it goes. And there still could be a trade, maybe if not in the spring, then maybe mid-season. But Caglianone provides an opportunity to provide a boost to this offense mid-season, late in the season when they may need it. And so that's a nice kind of ace in the hole they have in their back pocket.
So let's get to this lineup then, Max. And we're talking to Max Rieper, editor-in-chief of royalsreview.com, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. I love the move for Jonathan India. Brady Singer had success last year. I always had my qualms with some of his arsenal, but, decent pitcher, but you needed a bat. You needed a guy who could lead off in front of Bobby Witt Jr. I love that addition to go get India. Good aggressive move by J.J. Piccolo and company. That's a positive. I kind of liked adding Kevin Biggio as well, even on a minor league deal. I like the idea behind that, having someone who's a little bit of an upgrade from some of those utility guys you had a season ago, Adam Frazier, et cetera. Awesome. But where could the Royals have done more to add to this team? Because you're right. It still feels like they're probably at least one bat shy in the middle of the lineup. Was there anyone who was kind of your white whale this offseason that you really wish the Royals had made a bigger play for?
Yeah, you look in their offseason, and I think when you look at the moves they actually did, you have to be pretty optimistic about what they did. Like you said, the India trade made a lot of sense. I've seen so many spring training games where when the regulars are in, India gets on base. Bobby Witt Jr. follows up with an extra base hit. Vinny Pasquantino follows up with a hit. I mean, that's what you want to see a lot of this summer. And I think you will see a lot of this summer. Re-signing Michael Wacha, making sure he doesn't get hit the free agent market, keeping him in the fold. Carlos Estevez, a nice addition to the bullpen. We know the bullpen had issues last year. They're certainly in a better place now than they were a year ago. I think when you look and you're disappointed with the offseason, it's the moves they didn't make. And I know they were trying. I know they're looking for that move to find another outfielder to bring in that mix, because that outfield was rough, man. It was not a lot of production from some guys they were kind of counting on, and they're sticking with those guys again this year. And you look at it and you're like, well, can we count on them to be better this year? I mean, I know MJ Melendez has a new swing. Do you have faith in him in year 4, turning a corner and becoming that productive major leaguer? How much does Hunter Renfroe have left in the tank at his age? Maybe he was a little too bulky last year, or was a little bit banged up. Maybe he's healthier this year, but can we really expect him to be a big run producer? So yeah, they need some help out there, and they just didn't do it. And I think there was a desire to do it, but I don't look at the off season and say, yeah, there's a move they should have made. Anthony Santander is a guy they targeted, but he got 5 years from the Blue Jays. That's certainly not something I would have been willing to do. Some of the other contracts that got out there, Jurickson Profar, I know they targeted. They went 3 years for him. He's a guy that 2 years ago was a pretty crummy player for the Rockies. Nice rebound year, but what's your confidence level he's going to be able to do that going forward? So I'm not too critical of the team not making those moves. I still think there's a trade out there they can make. Maybe it's a Taylor Ward, maybe it's a Starling Marte, who there's some reports they targeted him with the Mets. Not thrilled about him, but he's a guy that can give you a bat if the Mets are willing to eat a lot of that contract to make some sense. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. You got to make it takes two to tango, and you need someone who's willing to come here at the price you're willing to offer, or make a trade that someone's willing to make. And it didn't seem like there was a trade out there or a free agent move out there that really made sense. So, but there's still time. I think, like I said, there's still guys getting cut at the end of camp, and this summer, who knows? Maybe there's a trade that opens up.
Matt, I can't do this again with MJ Melendez. I cannot do it. I know he's working on the swing again and in the best shape of his life. I cannot do it again with MJ Melendez. I've gotten burned too many times. I haven't even been as high on him as some folks, and I've been burned too many times to believe that he's finally going to figure it out. Now, our co-host, Dan, who's out today on vacation, he has said, I'm holding at least a little bit of my MJ stock. He's working on the swing. Watch the Twitter videos, man. He's taking these great swings now. I can't believe it. If you are going to make the argument that he can be a steady, everyday-ish player for this Royals team this year, what argument is there to make at this point?
Well, I certainly understand the skepticism. I mean, it's nice to change your swing when you're facing minor leaguers in spring training. It's another thing when you're facing, the top pitchers in baseball, and you're reverting back to your old ways in July when you're kind of worn down. So, yeah, we'll see. I think if you want to make the case for him, it's that he's still a young guy. This is, Dayton Moore famously said, it takes 1,500 plate appearances before you know what you have in a player. And we've seen guys that take a while to develop. Mike Moustakas, who's, going to have, just had his retirement and is going to have his day later this summer in Kansas City. He's a guy that took, 2014, people forget, he got demoted in the middle of the season, had to come back, and then he was part of that pennant-winning team. And then the next year, he really took off and became an all-star. Alex Gordon was a little bit of a slow performer his first couple of years. He famously went down to the minors, became an outfielder, and that's when his bat took off. So sometimes it does take a little bit. And, Melendez is another guy that changed positions. Perhaps that's hurt his bat a little bit. Maybe he hasn't had a chance to focus on the bat as much. I understand the hope with him, the potential with him. That being said, look at the team did this offseason. They're moving guys to the outfield, right? They know that MJ Melendez is not a sure thing at this point, right? So they're trying to hedge their bets by trying Michael Massey out in the outfield, trying Jonathan India out in the outfield, trying Michael Garcia out in the outfield. I think there's an acknowledgement here that MJ Melendez may not hit, and if he can't hit, we can't really wait for him all season. We need to find solutions here. And so I appreciate them being creative, but I think ultimately it's going to mean bringing someone in from outside the organization. Hopefully he figures it out, though. I'd love to see him put up the numbers he put up in the minors.
We're joined by Max Rieper here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, Max of RoyalsReview.com. And Max, how big was it for the Royals this offseason to bring back both Michael Wacha and Michael Lorenzen for that third and fourth role in the starting pitching lineup?
Well, I think it was a smart move by the Royals. First of all, acknowledging starting pitching was their major strength last year, right? And you don't want to lose that. And they could have just been fine with like 4 or 5 starting pitchers, but I think JJ Picollo's talked about this a lot. You need 8 or 9 starting pitchers to go into a season, and with a rotation right now, it's going to look like Reagan's on day 1 on opening day, Seth Lugo to follow him up. Then you're going to see Wacha and Lorenzen, and my guess is Chris Bubich in the 5th spot. We'll see, but then you still have a lot of options beyond that. Daniel Lynch has looked pretty impressive lately. You've got Kyle Wright, who I know is working his way back from injury and hasn't really pitched in a game yet. Hopefully he's an option leader in the year. And then Alec Marsh, who's looked good at times, but a little bit inconsistent. I think all of those guys could be solid contributors in the major leagues this year. And then Noah Cameron, a guy a rookie who has already been sent to minor league camp, but I think he could be a factor later in the season as well. So it's nice to have that kind of rotation depth. I'm glad they didn't just sit back and say, well, we had a good rotation last year. As long as we bring back some of those guys, we're fine. They said, we need some depth. We know a lot of these guys aren't exactly workhorses, that go 200 innings like the guys did back in the day. We're going to need a lot of arms to cover those innings. And so to keep a strength like that, to continue it to be a strength, I think is a really smart move.
And last one from me. Do you think the back end of the rotation with Estevez, Urseg, and Harvey could be one of the best / most underrated in the majors?
Absolutely. I mean, look how different the bullpen is from a year ago. I mean, last year they tried to bring a bunch of proven veterans, Will Smith, Chris Stratton, to try to fix that bullpen, and it blew up in their faces right in the first month of the season. Pretty evident. Nick Anderson, another one. Pretty evident that didn't work out. And I think the weakness with the guys they brought in is that they weren't strikeout pitchers, right? Well, they've totally changed their philosophy going into this offseason. Carlos Estevez is a strikeout pitcher. Hunter Harvey is a big-time strikeout pitcher. And Lucas Urseg is one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball, especially over the last 2 months after the Royals acquired him. So to get guys out there that can miss bats, that can, you don't have to leave the game to chance where a blooper loses the game for you. You can have a strikeout stuff and close that door the way HDH did back in the day. So it's nice to see the Royals getting back to that formula, and I think it's going to be a strength. And I think, an underrated, you put it as underrated. I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be one of the more underrated tanks in baseball. It's just cross our fingers that everyone stays healthy. But I think they've got a chance to really be something special there. And I think we're going to feel a lot more secure when we have the lead late in games.
Max Rieper is the editor-in-chief of RoyalsReview.com over at SB Nation. Head on over there for all sorts of fantastic coverage of Royals baseball. Max, man, we always appreciate you when you come on, join us. Looking forward to talking to you down the line. By the way, make sure you keep that new writer of yours, Trenton Kraxner, in line, all right? He's our former intern here on 580 Sports Talks. Keep that guy in line.
Good to know. Yeah, I absolutely will. He's done a great job. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a great one. Thank you, Max. All right, that is Max Rieper from RoyalsReview.com. We owe you a timeout. We'll come on back, wrap up this 3 o'clock hour with some One Gotta Go here on 580 Sports Talk. All right, a real quick one gotta go here, Spencer. Let's do the host cities for the NCAA tournament this year for the regional rounds of the tournament. So the East, South, West, and Midwest regionals, they are going to be in Newark, New Jersey, San Francisco, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Indianapolis, Indiana. One's gotta go.
Newark.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one.
Yeah. Like Atlanta, you can see it do a bunch of stuff in Atlanta.
Sure.
San Francisco, you can do a bunch of stuff, go a bunch sightseeing.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the last? Oh, Indianapolis. Yeah, a ton of stuff to do.
Yeah, there's
there.
a lot to do in Indy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Newark's close enough to New York, but I'd rather just go to New York.
Yeah.
All right, we got about 30 seconds. Do you have one?
I do not.
Okay, perfect.
I didn't think we were going to have enough time.
Hey, I thought we would fit that in there. That's fine. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. A funny hour of the show. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, we'll get to some Chiefs offseason football. We gave you our signing grades yesterday. Big picture, have the Chiefs actually gotten better during the offseason so far this year? We'll have what is wrong with you. We'll pick tonight's first 4 games, and we'll be joined by Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-up, plus your texts, plus your comments on the YouTube, all coming up next hour on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. On the other side of the glass today is Spencer Dupuis. Dan Lucero is off on vacation. He will be back with us on Monday. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of the show, man, my voice is on thin ice right now. It's not doing great.
No.
When I started the show, I think I said it's 65%. I'm dropping it to about 52% right now.
You want more of those cough drops?
Might need some. I'm staying hydrated. That has helped. But it's not going great. Got to keep the water flowing.
We've all been there.
Oh, we've all been there. We'll talk some Chiefs football here in just a moment as the Chiefs have now 1 week into the new league year, made a number of signings. They're getting ready for the draft coming up end of next month. Have they actually gotten better, and where do they still need to improve immediately and in the long term? All that's coming up here in a few minutes. We've also got today's What Is Wrong With You? Tim Fitzgerald is going to stop by for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Fitz, of course, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. And then we'll pick the first four games tonight. Mount St. Mary's versus American and Xavier versus Texas. Did you watch any of the games last night?
Yes, I was intermittently back and forth watching the first game, Alabama State, and who'd they play?
They took on, oh my gosh, who was it? St. Francis.
Yes, St. Francis. And I just happened to tune back in. Luckily, any college basketball my YouTube TV thinks is eligible to record. So it records it. So I had just missed what had happened. And I went back and watched it like without seeing it on Twitter.
Yeah.
So it was like 30 seconds after it happened.
Absolutely bananas game between Alabama State and St. Francis. That was probably the best first four game that we've ever had. I think that's probably 100%. Fair to say. The other game, North Carolina destroyed San Diego State. That game was not close. 95-68.
Even with the travel issues.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show yesterday. Yeah, it was a beatdown. So American versus Mount St. Mary's, Texas versus Xavier tonight. We'll pick those games at the end of the hour. We also want to hear from you either on our text line, 785-272-9429, or you can find us on YouTube. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to our channel while you are there. Then you can watch along with the show and hang out in the live comments section as well. And let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the show today, where you need 66 subscribers to hit 800.
We're getting there.
That's it. We're slowed down a little bit, but we're making progress. Dan and I are going to arm wrestle on camera when we get to 800. That's the... you
know what's going to happen?
That's the next goal. What?
Somehow, some way, we're going to reach 800 next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'll be on the show, though, at least.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will not be in studio next week. I don't know how long I will be out of the studio, but I will be out of the studio.
It depends on how long Washburn wants to play.
Hey, if you want me to be away as long as possible, you should be rooting for Washburn, because I will be with them in beautiful Evansville, Indiana. You ever been to Evansville?
Maybe I've driven through it.
Not a ton going on in Evansville. Well, there's going to be a ton this coming week with the Elite Eight there. It's a little bit smaller than Topeka. We have a coworker actually on our sales team who told me that they briefly lived in Evansville a couple years ago and said, yeah, it reminds me a lot of Topeka. I said, oh, okay, sweet. Also on a river, bigger river, though. So that's all I know about Evansville for you. Do not know what the local fast food options are. No Brahms, obviously.
Unfortunately.
I don't know what the fast food situation looks like.
Hey,
but
there might be a Culver's there.
Well, I'm sure there is. You can get that here, though.
That's true.
I'm looking. I need the specialties. I need the local specialties. I will be indulging when I am there. I can tell you that for darn sure. All right, let's get to some Chiefs football, shall we? We gave you our grades yesterday for the Chiefs moves this offseason. My highest grade was Christian Fulton, the cornerback. I think that is awesome. 2 years, $20 million for a guy who's hopefully going to start on the boundary for you. That's a good number for a CB2. Spencer, if I remember correctly, your two highest grades were Fulton as well as Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. My lowest was Kareem Hunt. I don't think it's worth the money. I don't think it's worth the roster spot more than anything. Forget the money. I just don't think that's a worthwhile piece trying to rebuild that running backs room. Who'd you have as your lowest grade? I think someone got a C- for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I went as low as a D for Kareem Hunt. I don't like that move.
Let's see. I'm pulling it up right now. A C for Kareem Hunt.
Okay, yeah, not thrilled, but it's whatever. It's not expensive. I wouldn't
be
shocked.
Not an upgrade, but it's not a downgrade.
Yeah, I feel like they can do better. I would rather.
It's a passing grade for me. It's just barely passing.
Yeah, I will feel
no improvement.
I will feel worse about it if the Chiefs do not draft a running back.
Oh, yes.
Then I will be upset about it. So that one is a little bit incomplete for me as of now. Big picture, though, Spencer. Have the Chiefs gotten better so far this offseason? And if so, how much better have they gotten?
I don't know. You put this question in there, and I don't know how to answer this question because time will tell. The season will tell.
Well,
right?
sure.
Like, I think they got a better backup quarterback. Yes. I think they potentially upgraded from where they. Well, I think anything. I don't know. This guy hasn't played that much. I was going to say an upgraded left tackle is better than what they had.
So let's
a pure
start
tackle position.
Yeah, let's jump in and start with Jalen Moore, right? Because that's the biggest signing the Chiefs have made so far, in the sense that it was such an obvious, glaring need.
Yes.
You had to get a left tackle. You got one with real NFL experience and a handful of starts. Okay, great. We have no idea what he is going to look like over the course of an entire season. It is truly impossible to know. He's made 12 starts in 4 years, okay?
Yeah.
We have no way to know how good he's actually going to be. Now, the Chiefs got him for cheap. That is a positive. He is a veteran to a degree. That is a positive. Probably better than Wanye Morris was. That is a positive. And Kingsley, but Kingsley's probably going to move to guard and start, whatever. Okay, fine. So I think the answer is yes, they have improved there. I still have more concerns, honestly, more so than for 2025, but more for the future. There's no plan at tackle long term. Everybody has told us. Matt Derrick, who we talked to a couple weeks ago about this, said, yeah, Juwan Taylor, after next season, they're going to let him go. He ain't going to play out every single year of his contract. Moore is on a 2-year deal. I guess if he goes out there and plays like an all-pro or a Pro Bowler,
you sign him to an extension.
You'll get an extension done for sure. But what if he doesn't? And that's quite a risk I think this Chiefs team is running. I'm much more worried long-term about the offensive line than I am in the short term. That's why yesterday I gave Moore a C, and really I wanted to give it an incomplete grade because I just don't know what it is about him that made him so interesting. By the way, quick piece of NFL news for today. Cam Robinson signed, the former Viking tackle. He signed with the Houston Texans, okay? Here is what the Houston Texans did with their offensive line this year. This is remarkable. They traded Laramie Tunsil. They traded Kenyon Green. They cut Shaq Mason. They signed Cam Robinson. They, I believe, signed, not traded for, it might have been a trade, got Ed Ingram from the Vikings as well, and signed Laken Tomlinson. So Kenyon Green stinks. That's fine that they got rid of him. Cam Robinson last season, and I have to pull up this stat from Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports, who tweeted out today, Cam Robinson allowed the highest one-on-one pressure rate among all tackles in the NFL last season after he took over as a starter. Week 9 onward, he allowed a 17% pressure rate. The league average, Spencer, is 9.8. He was almost doubling it for the last 10 weeks of the season. That's horrible.
Wow.
And they're replacing Laramie Tunsil with him. Yikes. That's Yikes. I didn't want the Chiefs to sign Cam Robinson in the first place, so I have no problem with him going elsewhere. Very funny, he's going to another team that is trying to contend in the AFC. Again, yikes, Houston. I just don't know about Moore. It's hard for me to know if he can be a strong starter because he hasn't done it very much and because I'm not sure what about him was so attractive to the Chiefs. All right, so that's the tackle situation. I'll reiterate the point I said yesterday. I think the cornerback room is in a much, much better spot than it was this past season because you've got real depth now. You can move Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
You can move him inside as often as you do or do not want this year because you've got two legit starting outside corners. Are either one of them elite? Christian Fulton or Jalen Watson? Is either one elite? No. Obviously. And Jalen Watson, unfortunately for him, the last we saw him, he was getting cooked in the Super Bowl. That being said, he had a really good year. He was still recovering from injury in the Super Bowl. Not surprised he was maybe a half step slow. And I think you have to trust the body of work over the last 3 years, which has featured a lot more good than bad for the former 7th-round pick. You throw Fulton in there, who might not be an all-pro, might not be a lockdown guy, but you know what he is? A more than capable boundary starter who's coming off of a good year, who's still not even 28 years old. I think that's such a good move. I love the depth there now. Joshua Williams as CB4 is a lot more tempting than Joshua Williams as CB3 in my mind. I think this is a really solid group. You still are going to have to make some plans for the longer-term future at cornerback. I would not be shocked if one of the Chiefs' day 3 picks this year is a corner. A, because Brett Veach is so good at finding them late in the draft. But B, you've only got one more year of Watson. You've only got one more year of Williams. You have to pay Trent McDuffie and get him his extension, which is good. You'll have him for the long term, but that's going to cost you a lot. Fulton, I like the move. It's a 2-year deal. And most of the guarantees, I believe, are going to pay out this year. So you're going to have to find longer-term solutions there as well. But for 2025, I'm very confident with this room. I know I was a little bit higher on Fulton's talent than you were yesterday when we were grading these moves.
Yeah.
But I think either way you slice it, it's still fair to say, bare minimum, you have a much better depth situation, and you can use McDuffie in a more favorable, versatile role. Which, I mean, that has to be a win, right? I would say so.
Yeah. And I mean, the Chiefs have 4 picks in the top 100. They could easily get more.
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to trade back. I do.
Yeah. I think they could easily pick a depth corner, another guy there in between the 4th and the 6th round. I think they might not want to go back to that 7th because at the 7th, you're getting more special teams guys like Najee Johnson.
Although Watson was a 7th.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just kind of...
No, I hear what you're saying, though.
Like, with the further back you let it go, the more you're gambling.
The Chiefs have had such an unbelievable stretch of finding these late-round guys. L'Jarius Sneed was a 4th-round pick. Shamari Connor, who's not as good as some of these other guys, 4th-round pick. Rashad Fenton, who I don't know if he's still on a roster, he was so good his rookie year, was a big part of winning that Super Bowl for that defense. He was the slot corner at the time. That was a good find in the 6th round. Jalen Watson's been a good starter. He was the 7th round guy. Johnson, unfortunately, has not worked out as a defensive player, but he is a good special teamer. He was the 7th round guy. Veach has done such a good job finding moves there. I think the Chiefs need another wide receiver. You've got Rice back at some point, obviously. You've got Xavier Worthy, who I give credit to. He was better at the end of his rookie year than I thought he might be. Juju's back. That's fine. I think the Chiefs need to spend a pick somewhere in this draft on a wide receiver. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a top 2 rounds pick, but I would not be opposed to using one of those 4 top 100 picks. And again, I would not be opposed to the Chiefs trading back out of one of those picks as well.
Yeah, I mean,
adding a little extra capital to use later.
I didn't realize that as of this moment, they have 8 picks.
I thought it was 6.
No, they got 2 compensatories.
Oh.
251 and 257.
Okay, so 7th rounders.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right, because they got Mr. Irrelevant with that 257th pick.
Yeah.
I would want to go and add somebody more there. And Hollywood's back too. I know that.
The problem, this is where I come down on the Chiefs drafting and how they built their team.
Mm-hmm.
There comes to be a time where, like, 257, 251, if you pick those guys, they might not make your team.
Well, yeah.
Like, we saw that with who's the guy I'm thinking of, the defensive back that's now with the Packers or was with the Packers last year. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Not Jaden Hicks, the other defensive back they drafted.
Oh, yeah, okay. I can't pull his name.
I'm pulling.
He
up
was
their
not
draft
making a
picks right
major
now.
impact, but yeah, I remember this happening.
It was one of the late round guys.
Yeah.
Kamal Hadden. Hey,
Yes.
6th round
yeah,
guy.
he didn't. Yeah,
He didn't make the team.
and you do run into that sometimes.
But when you build a roster, your draft picks could be practice squad guys at some point. Your late round draft picks could be practice squad guys, depending on how well of a team you build, like how much of a roster builder you are. Your draft is a weird spot for you.
Yeah, I mean, because you're always picking late, right?
Yeah.
You're not always getting that top of the line. That's why they traded up to get Patrick Mahomes, and obviously that worked out. My problem with the wide receiver room is still that I hate that there's so little differentiation.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice is different than Xavier Worthy, and he's different than Hollywood Brown, but those two even have a lot of similarities. Sky Moore is a little guy. Now, he stinks, but he's a little guy. Juju, I don't want as any more than my wide receiver 4 or 5, probably 5 at this stage of his career. I just want a bigger body, and they got that with Hopkins, and then they just didn't use him at the end of the year. And I don't know if that was a Hopkins problem, if it was a Mahomes, not problem, but a Mahomes thing. I don't know. I just would love for the Chiefs to break their tendency with wide receivers at some point and get someone who's 6'3", who can go up and get a ball. That's what I'm hoping for. Because, again, Rice is a different kind of body type than some of these other guys. He's still only 6'1", 204. Like, go get a bigger dude who can catch a jump ball, who is going to win with his body a little bit more often than some of these guys who are just going to win with speed. And you can't complain that much because the Chiefs have won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls and 3 within a very short amount of time. But yeah. I would like to see them mix it up a little bit more with those body types. And I would love to see them do that somewhere in the middle of the draft. The other spot, too, and we talked about this a little bit with Kareem Hunt earlier, get a running back with explosion. Get a guy who can actually get an explosive run for you. Because Pacheco looked bad when he came back from injury. I know, again, returning from injury, maybe he'll be rejuvenated week 1. I have some doubts about that. Kareem Hunt's not doing that for you. If you need 4 yards, he'll get you 4 yards. If you need 3 yards, he'll get you 4 yards. If you need 5 yards, he'll get you 4 yards. Like, that's just what he is at this point. He doesn't have the physical burst anymore to do a whole lot more than that. That's why I hope that they use a draft pick and are not attached completely to having Hunt on the roster going into next season, because I think getting, even if it's a smaller back with a little more juice, a little more burst, that's going to really help this offense create some more explosive plays. I think you have to draft one.
You mentioned attached. You know who gets attached to players? Andy Reid.
Well, sure. Yeah.
I didn't just everybody coming back, you know.
Here's the thing.
Including Hunt.
I hate watching Kareem Hunt play. Like, I'm not trying to say he's bad, because what the Chiefs asked of him this past year, he did a good job with. But it's just not entertaining. And again, I don't think productive to have a guy who's just never going to be able to get anything explosive for you. I would love to see this team. And I guess that's the idea behind Elijah Mitchell, who again is a guy who is not guaranteed to be on this roster come week 1, because his contract is effectively nothing. It's peanuts relative to the NFL salary cap. And it doesn't have to be Devin Neal, even though that'd be an awesome story. It doesn't have to be DJ Giddens, even though that would also be an awesome story. But there are so many dudes. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee got a fumbling problem. He's a little bit smaller, but man, he can freaking run when you get the ball in his hands. Would love a guy like that. If they could swing one of the guys from Ohio State, either Trey Henderson or Quinshad Judkins, a guy like that, maybe in the 3rd round, maybe even use a 2nd rounder on him, would love a player like that. That's what I want to see. Somebody who can make a play. Nobody in the backfield for the Chiefs last year could make a play on their own. And go look at the teams that have backs like that. I can tell you, Green Bay with Josh Jacobs, previously before that Aaron Jones, totally changed the offense. The Eagles with Saquon, a running back who could go make a play on his own, makes things so much more stressful for opposing defenses. That's what I would like to see the Chiefs draft this year. One real quick note, speaking of the draft. Do the Chiefs need to ace it? Do they need to have like a 2022 repeat kind of draft in order to be the favorites in the AFC again?
I kind of want to say yes. I think they're just in such a weird position, right? Because it seems like they can just put Legos in random places and make a great roster.
Won multiple Super Bowls with Justin Watson playing a lot of snaps.
Yes. Like
made it to a Super Bowl with slow as molasses Kareem Hunt getting a ton of snaps.
Yes, like I don't know how to describe this team other than like they look like they're just a bunch of Legos put together. Like depending on where you look at the team and look at wide receiver last year, how they were able to get guys mid-season or do what they did, and that's just kind of wild to me.
Yeah, I'm hopeful in the draft this team can find somebody who is a playmaker, someone who is going to do something that stands out of structure. Worthy is getting there. I think Rice is that guy, but again, he's not going to be 100% healthy for at least part of the season. Who knows when he's actually going to be able to return from that knee injury. Somebody in the draft who can make Kelsey's not that guy anymore. Somebody who can get the ball and then make someone miss, make a play in the open field. That is what I'm hoping for out of the draft. You had a guy like that? Yes, I'm feeling great.
Give me a wide receiver with no issues, no baggage, no nothing. Because we already seen what's happened with Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
And Xavier Worthy's accused of something right now, even though the charges have been dropped. The woman got
in a bad situation.
Yeah, you got into a bad. You want guys that are football.
No, I
give
hear
me
you.
Football focused guy. That's what I want at receiver.
You hear what Jamar Chase said during his press conference with T. Higgins yesterday?
What he said multiple things.
So he did say multiple things. You're right. So to the point you made about you want guys who are focused on football. Jamar Chase mentioned that he loves living in Cincinnati because there's nothing to do. There's no good food. There's nothing else going on. He just has to focus on football. Cincinnati can't be that bad, man.
I mean, nah. I mean, don't they have that hot dog sauce stuff, chili? I don't know what it's called.
Hot dog sauce. The Skyline chili.
Skyline chili. Yeah. I did.
Man, that's up there with Japanese turn instead of Tokyo Drift. Hot dog sauce.
I did not know that's where you're going with that. The comment I heard from Jamar Chase, I think it was Jamar Chase or was it T. Higgins? One of them was asked, "Do you have high money for a wide receiver 2?" He goes, "No, I'm a wide receiver 1A."
Yeah. I mean, that must have been Higgins.
Yeah.
You got to have confidence. Wide receivers always do. Text from the 785. Wide receiver without issues. Don't draft one from Texas. Rashee Rice obviously went to SMU from Dallas originally. Xavier Worthy went to Texas. I don't know where he's from originally. Unfortunately, one of my favorite receivers in the whole draft, Matthew Golden from Texas. And where did he go before Texas? Houston.
Jeez.
Oh, dear. Let's get to a timeout. What is wrong with you is coming up next. Might be drafting another receiver from the state of Texas. We'll also be joined by Tim Fitzgerald later on this hour. We'll pick the first 4 games tonight. It's all coming up here in this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. All right, quick round of what is wrong with you here on 580 Sports Talk before we get to Tim Fitzgerald. What is wrong with you? Brought to you by Ryan Mo Winkle, and Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. RyanMoWinkle.com. Go see our guy over to 29th Street office. They got that nice view, that double-decker building. I always park on the side lot when I go, which I know I shouldn't, because I think, I'm not going to be able to pull out of that front lot. It's a little small. I always park on the side lot. Then I have a long way to walk to get to the front door. Very dumb. It's a very stupid thing that I do, but I do it every single time.
I think I got to go give him another call. Or give him a call.
Yeah.
See what he can do with my car insurance.
Get the car stuff figured out. Yeah. So, go check him out. Ryan Mo Winkle over on 29th Street and RyanMoWinkle.com. All right. Our current winner for the week. Yeah, call him Yippee Karaoke. Kind of butchered the Die Hard quote there. But a guy at a bar in Florida who fired a gun because the karaoke machine didn't work at a bar. That's it. All right, Spencer, real quick, let's get to your story.
It's okay. I'm keeping them coming today.
All right.
A 44-year-old man in Florida was arrested for battery after punching a female acquaintance.
Oh.
And in his mugshot, he's wearing a shirt that says, "I never argue."
Oh, my gosh.
Tensions boiled over when a man sporting that shirt, "I never argue," was arrested after a heated dispute with a female acquaintance turned violent, according to police reports. Daniel Morello, 44, allegedly attacked a 24-year-old woman, repeatedly punching her in the head while they sat inside a BMW parked outside Econo Lodge in Kissimmee. The pair had originally traveled from Tampa, but became stranded when the vehicle broke down. After running out of money for their hotel stay, they resorted to sleeping in the car while trying to fix it and secure a tow, authorities say. He claimed he had been in a romantic relationship with a woman for several months, but she denied this to police. Tensions flared when their efforts to arrange for a AAA tow were unsuccessful. The frustration led to an argument that quickly turned physical. The victim told officers that Merlo already was upset about the situation when he lashed out. Then she noted she had visible swelling and bumps on her head, which appeared to be fresh injuries. He told officers he hit the woman only in response to her striking him first. He also alleged she threw urine at him from a cup that they had inside the vehicle, which led to him breaking the car's windows in retaliation.
Why did they have a cup of urine? I don't know. This is bad. All right, we're a little short on time, so I'm going to stop you there. Good. All right, this guy sucks.
He's in jail on $1,000 bond.
Add 5 zeros to that. This guy sucks. My story here on What Is Wrong With You brought to you by Ryan Mo Winkle. Excuse me, Ryan. A Florida man down in Sumter County, Florida, was not feeling the luck of the Irish on St. Patrick's Day. This is from Fox 13 TV. After troopers say he forgot to lower the dump bed on his dump truck and slammed into an overpass, which sheared off the dump bed. We have a photo that's available from Fox 13, a little too small to share with you guys on the YouTube feed. How do you forget to lower the dump bed?
I don't know, but that seems like something that would happen in the state of Florida.
It gets caught on the overpass and just ripped off the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And it's just stuck now between the overpass and the road.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but have you ever seen those videos on YouTube where people put cameras outside short bridges in towns?
Yes.
And people, they have signs everywhere, and these box trucks still get their top shredded off.
There's one of those in Kansas City that happens every other week, it feels like. I'm going to go with mine today. It's pretty basic, but that guy in your Spencer sucks so much, I can't vote for it. So I'm going to vote for the dump truck issue, but I don't think that beats our weekly champion.
Yeah, to be honest, I only picked it because he wore a shirt that says "I never argue."
That is
they got into an argument.
That is very funny. But Yippee Karaoke, that is still our winner for the week in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Ryan Mo Winkle and Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. Tim Fitzgerald is up next on 580 Sports Talk. It is always a big Kansas State victory when we are joined on 580 Sports Talk by the one and only Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com. You can find him on Twitter at LifeOfFitz. And, of course, go check out his great work and his staff's great work at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. What's going on, Fitz? How you doing, man?
I was just wrapping up my own podcast recording, and I looked over at my phone's ringing. I'm like, gotta go. Gotta go.
Bye. Peace out. See ya.
That's exactly what I did. Gotta go.
How you been? We haven't talked to you in a couple weeks, man. How you doing?
I know. I hear you had a heck of a call.
I let other people say such a thing. All I know is that Washburn men's basketball made it super darn easy on me last night. Did rob me of a few vocal cords, though.
You don't sound yourself. You're a little bit off. I thought they had a new person and realized, oh, that's that guy still.
Yeah, no. Still me. Still lingering
You blew out
around.
the pipes, huh?
What was that?
You blew out your pipes, huh?
Yeah, okay. Listen. The other day, Dan was talking about lubricating his pipes. Now we're talking about blowing out pipes. We got to be careful of pipe talk on this radio show. We are steering into very dangerous territory here, Fitz.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you get a hold of your pipes. What do you want to talk about?
Well, we might as well do the postmortem now, right? We might as well say goodbye to the year for Kansas State men's basketball. We'll get a note on the women here. They're going to play coming up on Friday. But a postmortem for K-State men's basketball, Fits. And when you look at this season as a whole, and we'll get to the end of it here in a minute, but when you look at this season as on a whole, if you could point to one thing, one concept, one overarching reason why this year didn't live up to the expectations or frankly anything close to them, what would that reason be?
Just not a good roster construction. They had good pieces, but I don't know if they formed everything that you want from a team. You know, I think these guys, as it turned out, actually got along pretty well, but it just didn't seem to have any like spiritual leadership. And I don't mean that in a religious way. I mean, just kind of, they didn't play with spirit. They didn't play. They didn't get after it. And nobody seemed to hold them accountable for not doing that. We saw a little bit of that Doug McDaniel, but overall the team had too many mental ups and downs. And that goes back to how you constructed your roster. That is a issue with the speed dating nature of college basketball, college sports right now with the transfer portal. I mean, you come in, you have a cup of coffee together, you smile, and you're like, yeah, we're getting married for a year. Yeah, and that's no way to try to build a relationship, but that's what the portal is. So they're going to have to be really measured and more careful with how the team actually comes together and how the locker room's constructed with this next effort.
It's how Larry King used to build relationships, but probably not the best way to build a relationship if you're a basketball team doing it for 1 year when you get married. The roster for this program, what was it, like 12 different marriages? The guy was insane. The future for this roster in terms of the way K-State is going to construct it. I look at the two recent high school commits, Fitz, those guys from down south, super springy, super athletic, not a ton of attention from the recruiting sites 24/7 or elsewhere. That to me says program guy. That to me says You're buying into what Jerome Tang and his staff want, to what K-State stands for. You're going to work on your body. You're going to work on your game. You're going to become a good player, and you're going to be around for the long haul. That's at least what that says to me, and that makes me, Fitz, even if they're not, necessarily superstar guys right off the rip, that makes me feel like, okay, we're steering in a different direction. We've seen what the all NIL team can do, the all transfer portal team. It's not what we want. It's what we've done a couple of times now. Let's try to go more grassroots. Do you feel like that's sort of the way K-State is trending now?
Well, I think with what you can do now with a roster at 15 scholarships, which is where K-State will be next year, is very interesting to me. Because you get 2 free spots, and I feel like these high school kids kind of fill that. You look at him, Ashton McGee he reminds me a lot of Wesley Iwundu. And that isn't a full compliment because we now remember Wes, what he was as a senior, what he became, and he went to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
But when he came in as a freshman, he was raw. obviously athletic, but the dude was Marcus Foster. I mean, he was the guy. They were in the class together, and he was the guy, and Marcus decided to transfer, and Wesley stuck at K-State, and you know what? He became a better basketball player than Marcus Foster. By their senior years, there was no doubt in my mind that Wesley was a better all-around player and had a better shot at being in the league, and he did. So I look at Ashton McGee, and I see that they might have to put a couple years into him. If you can even do that nowadays, we'll see, and try to invest in him and get him to where he needs. And Xavier Wilson, I think, he's truly a roster guy, a guy that you can bring in and be a point, be an off, give you just another ball handler, and try to find someone that just does all the little things right, but maybe not make the dramatic play because that's not your skill set.
Tim Fitzgerald is our guest, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. If you are not a VIP at 24/7 and at GoPowerCat, you are missing out on all sorts of great information on all the inner workings of what's going on with K-State football, basketball, and recruiting. You can also follow Fitz all over Twitter at Life of Fitz. And he joins us here every Wednesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Fitz, what did you make of Coleman Hawkins' tearful answer in the locker room after K-State was eliminated from the Big 12 tournament, talking about, admitting to being too online and, the NIL pressures and all of that? What was your thought, your response to seeing Coleman Hawkins emotional like that?
Yeah, it was rough. I don't think I've done this a long time, and I've seen guys break down and get tearful. I've never seen a guy basically lose control and then just fight through the interview. Like he had stuff he felt like he needed to say, whether it was too emotionally powerful for him. I admire him for admitting all of it. I do. He admitted his own faults, which is tough for people in general to do, let alone a younger generation. Nothing's ever your fault, is it? But he said, I was too worried about what people online were saying. And that is something you got to be so careful with, because I believe this is true. If you're a good person and you're online and maybe you have opinions or you do stuff that makes people mad and maybe you kind of troll with them, but you kind of view everyone that's out there like you, that there's an actual real person behind there and someone who just wouldn't be intentionally cruel, but there are. It's hard for me to understand why, but there's people out there that just create accounts to be mean, to be awful, not to be like cute, but to be a bully, to be an awful human being. And honestly, if they can ruin your day or your life, they see it as victory. And he ran into some of those people. Every fan base has them. And they may not even be your fan base. They might be someone not in your fan base pretending, because you don't know who they really are. You got to be so careful online nowadays.
We're joined by Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And if you're K-State as a team, as a group overall, where do you go from here? I mean, speaking of online, there were fans saying that contract extension last offseason to Tang was the worst thing they could have done with the buyout put in place with what has been on the court this year. How do you move forward if you're the team?
Well, you just have to find I think Jerome Tang has admitted the way he was trying to build a roster wasn't working, and he's going to try something new. Portal opens on Monday. We'll see who goes in from K-State, who K-State shows interest in. But yeah, I think they've in some ways got to reinvent themselves. As for that contract, I didn't see many people complaining when the contract was signed. And it's easy to be able to look back in hindsight and say, probably shouldn't have done that. In hindsight, a lot of fans would say, you shouldn't even have let him come back. Well, you didn't feel that way at the moment. At the time when a decision needed to be made, 99% of the fan base is, yeah, get him locked down, bring him back. We're going to be fine. And now after another bad season, fans are like, I never wanted him back. Ball. But, bull. So, yeah, that's just kind of a nature of a fan base. And you're not really held accountable for your opinions because we all forget what they were from year to year. But if you're Gene Taylor, you signed the contract. You're on the record for that one, so we can make fun of you for it.
Switching to the women's team, they're going to the NCAA tournament. They unfortunately won't host like they did last year, but got a favorable matchup as the 5 seed against the Fairfield team. What do you like in that matchup?
Well, it's going to be interesting. Fairfield is really well coached. Mostly, although I think K-State is a lot about itself. How incorporated can you get Aoka Lee right away? If she's saying she's 100%, if she is, do you try to just revert to how you played with her? Do you want to play her that much? A lot of decisions to be made. And when she's off the court, what personality will you play to? So, get one game at a time. I'm looking at this and not being at home is maybe a good motivation for this team. Maybe you offer them a little more fire to be the road team and go in and win someplace. And they have a real opportunity to make a statement here, particularly now that the distraction of the Missouri job is off of, Jeff Meddy, and they can just totally focus in on the task at hand.
Real quick, Fitz, before we let you go, if I could zigzag back to the men's squad real quick.
Yeah.
And I think I know what the answer to this is, but next year, is it do or die, tournament or bust for Jerome Tang in Manhattan?
I want to say yeah, but I don't think they can afford to get rid of him after next year either.
Yeah.
And that's the settlement of the House case that will lead to the revenue sharing has changed the finances of college sports in a epic way, in a way that wasn't fully understood a year ago when you re-signed this guy. I think that contract isn't going to be replicated in many places. I think ADs are going to be really careful about those ongoing buyouts. And honestly, I think ADs have been pushed around from agents way too long. ADs haven't had the balls to say, no, we're not going to do it. We're moving on to someone else. Because you can't put yourself in a financial position that you will regret later. And I think ADs are going to have to be really careful with these contracts in the future.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. He joins us every Wednesday at this time via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Fitz, good to hear from you, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys. Good to hear from you.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. And we've got to get to another commercial break. We'll come on back, pick tonight's first 4 games here on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks to Tim Fitzgerald for joining us for today's Wildcat Wrap-up. Got just over a minute, Spencer, for some picks tonight. We are off early. We're done at 5:30 today because of Westwood One's coverage of the first four from Dayton. Yesterday, it was Alabama State and North Carolina moving on. 2 more games today to fill out the 64-team bracket. First, 16 seeds. Mount St. Mary's versus American, with the Eagles of American University favored by 2.5. Who you got?
Okay, so this is like an all DMV matchup.
Yeah.
Because Emmitsburg, Maryland is where Mount St. Mary's has been to a game there, so I'm going to say, you know what? Mount St. Mary's wins.
I am going to take Mount St. Mary's as well. I know Americans had a good year, but give me the team with the points at the neutral site. Xavier versus Texas.
Ooh.
Xavier favored by 3.
Give me Xavier.
I'm taking Xavier as well. I think Xavier's a better team. I think they're better coached. You know my thoughts on Rodney Terry. So I'm out on Texas. I will take Xavier as well in tonight's game. We only have half an hour left on 580 Sports Talk. We'll load it up with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Plus, we will get you a final word before we send you over to Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament. Plus, we'll get to your texts. We'll get to your YouTube comments, all coming up in the last half hour today of 580 Sports Talk. now it's the final hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. And by hour, I mean approximately 21 and a half more minutes. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. On the other side of the glass, that is Spencer Dupuis. We're off early today because of Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament First Four. Mount St. Mary's versus American in Game 1. Xavier versus Texas in Game 2. Those are coming up, and we'll, of course, have coverage of the first round of the NCAA tournament Thursday and Friday right here on 580 WIBW. The evening sessions, anyway, of the first round. If you want to get in touch with the show, hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can check us out on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel.
I like how we're getting off the air tomorrow at a normal time of 6. And then we can both get home. And then KU takes the stage at 6:15.
Yeah.
It's like perfect timing.
Yeah. Am I excited? I guess I am. I tell myself I don't have expectations. But how do you not, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you, and I'm not trying to make a comparison apples to apples, but I'm sure like Marshall will play a football game, against Ohio State or whoever. They have, Who's on the schedule this year? They have another big one.
They played Ohio State. They're playing Georgia to start the year.
Georgia, that's who it is. Like, I'm sure as a fan, as an alumnus, you go, yeah, like, I'm not expecting Marshall to
Give
win.
me a quarter.
But if they go out and they, like, really suck, or even if they play well but still lose, there's a part of you that goes, damn, you had it.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Like they did at Ohio State this year.
There you go.
They played like the best that Ohio State had up to that point. Like the team, like
the first 3 weeks, right? So, like, and I'm not trying to say KU is a mid-major basketball program because they're not. They're one of the bluest of blue bloods. But, like, KU ain't winning the national championship this year. If they do, I'll be thrilled. But KU ain't win the national championship this year. No. So my expectations feel so different. I'm not sure how to adapt to it. I feel like I can be rational and also still be kind of sad about it at the same time. So, yes, we'll have coverage from Westwood One coming up tomorrow, starting at 6 o'clock today, starting at 5:30. All right, Spencer, we are short on time, so why don't we get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I am going to start with a story. I don't think you got to this yesterday. I think this happened after you went off the air.
Yes.
Former Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman has landed with the Green Bay Packers. This reported by ESPN from the writing of Packers beat writer Rob Demovsky. Mecole Hardman, a veteran wide receiver and return specialist, is signing with the Green Bay Packers on a 1-year deal. He's not the number one that Green Bay might be lacking, but Hardman does replace the kind of speed the Packers will be without until Christian Watson returns from a torn ACL. General manager Brian Gutekunst of the Packers said the team is preparing to be without Watson for at least the early portion of the season. I honestly would not be surprised if Watson misses almost the entire year. It was more than just an ACL, and it happened late in the season. Hardman has spent most of his 6 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs after he was drafted there in 2019. Of course, the signature play of his career was the game-winning catch in overtime of Super Bowl 58. You kidding me? All the things I've said about Mecole Hardman over the years, and now he's in Green Bay. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to lie. I got so superstitious yesterday ahead of the Washburn game. I had so many nerves. I thought, oh my God, this is a terrible omen. This cannot be good. I felt the same thing. I'm not kidding. In 2022, KU played Creighton in the second round of the NCAA tournament in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena. I was there. I don't know if I can do my Chris Berman voice right now. I knew. I was there. I can still do that. That's great. That was the same day, that second round game, that the Packers traded Devontae Adams. And I thought, are you kidding me? No. Bad omen on a day that I'm very nervous for. What the hell? And KU ended up winning that game and won the national championship. This felt like the same thing yesterday ahead of the Washburn game. Look, I don't think Hardman is actually really all that good. He caught 12 balls for 90 yards this season.
He was also hurt.
Yeah.
They put him on the injured reserve.
I don't know. Packers fans outside of me seem to not be all that enthused. He's just a guy at this point. It's whatever. I had to bring it up because he's a former Chief. If history tells us anything, though, he'll be back in Kansas City by the trade deadline.
Yeah.
The only time he's ever played for anyone other than Kansas City, they got rid of him immediately.
He also was
could.
touted as a big signing that year, and he had 3 catches.
I said it when he was signed, and I knew it was going to be true. And Rodgers got hurt, so it was different.
Yeah.
But there were complaints from Rodgers during training camp about Hardman. And I said it the minute he signed. Aaron Rodgers is going to hate this guy. And he did. And he ended up back with the Chiefs. It's whatever. I had to bring it up. You know my thoughts on McCole Hardman at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing while we're still in the NFL, the Netflix has released that they are going to have a season 2 of quarterbacks.
I saw this.
It's going to feature Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins.
Wait, again?
Yes.
Why?
Because he agreed to do it. But it's hilarious because what happens this past season to Kirk Cousins? What happened?
He got benched?
He got benched.
Wow. If we know anything about Kirk Cousins, we know the dude is going to get paid, right? He's going to get the bag. Yeah. He is going to get paid, and he's going to get it up front. And Netflix, I'm sure, came to him with a big old bag of money and said, would you like this? And he said, yes. Do you need to know what you're doing? No, I just want the money.
Kirk O'James.
I find it interesting. You're getting very different personalities. You're getting Mr. Bachelor Joe Burrow, who has a very private dating life.
But also, this is interesting because this happened. This is the same season where he got robbed. So, are we going to get more this happened, this is my reflection of it? Or are we going to be so this happened, but I don't want to talk about it?
I'm sure that is going to come up, and I'm sure Netflix would be PO'd if he didn't talk about it at all. So you got that. You've got Jared Goff, who's Mr. Detroit now and married to a literal supermodel. And then, average Cole's dad, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Very different scope of individual at this point. Did you watch the first season?
Yeah. I thought it was great.
I didn't watch it because I don't have Netflix. And for the most part, by the time I was done, or by the time my wife and I got rid of our Netflix subscription, I was only using it to watch reruns of Chappelle's Show and Seinfeld. So,
I was thinking about
getting my money.
I was thinking about exiting the Netflix, but Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out this summer. So
I did see that.
Also, just watched a Burt Kreischer special that dropped yesterday. Very good.
Very good. Are you excited for Happy Gilmore?
Yes. They just dropped another trailer yesterday or 2 days ago.
I did see the trailer. Listen, is the movie going to be good? Probably not. Will I find it funny? There's a decent chance. Is Julie Bowen in it? Yes. Might need to resubscribe to check it out. Okay. Listen, I'm just telling you, my dad and I watched Happy Gilmore probably every Sunday of the spring and summer, a million times every year when I was growing up. I've probably seen Happy Gilmore more than any other movie just because it was always on cable.
Yeah.
Julie Bowen, life-changing. Life-changing. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that. All right, let's move on to another headline here. Next one for me. This is a big one, Spencer. You got us the national broadcast schedule for the Royals this year. We have the local broadcast schedule as well, the games that will air on WIBW TV. You want to take this one away?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I'll get to that in a second, but we knew that through the partnership that the Royals and FanDuel Sports Network did with Gray Television in Kansas City, that KC's TV channels that were Gray would get them, as well as ones on the Kansas side as well. Well, those 10 games have been scheduled. Unfortunately, you only be able to watch one on actual WIBW Channel 13, and that's Sunday, April 6th against Baltimore at 1:10 p.m. The rest of them will be on their Me TV, which is like Channel 13.2 or something, according to our engineer, Roy. I asked him earlier about it, and that's what he told me. But April 27th against Houston, May 18th against St. Louis, Monday, May 26th versus Cincinnati, Sunday, everyone's Sunday except for that Monday, May 26th. June 1st versus Detroit, 1:10 p.m. June 15th versus the Athletics, 1:10 p.m. July 20th at Miami, 12:40 p.m. August 17th versus the White Sox, 1:10. August 24th at Detroit, 12:40. And August 31st versus Detroit at 1:10 p.m.
So your disappointment is that it's on MeTV and not WWW?
Yes, and they don't have MeTV on YouTube TV.
That's what I was literally going to check right now. I'm literally logging into my YouTube TV account to see if MeTV is available. Okay, so this really does nothing for me then.
Yes, except for like in a week and a half from now.
Although, that being said, you can get MeTV over the air with an antenna.
Yeah, but I'm not going to buy an antenna.
You should have already owned one. I own an antenna.
What?
Oh, dude. When I lived before...
How do you connect it into an HD TV?
There's a port.
Oh.
Yeah, like mine attaches with a like a coaxial cable. So it just screws in that way. Before YouTube TV introduced it gets rid of the delay, which makes me think, why do you have a delay anyway if I can just turn it off? But anyway, before they introduced that, I used to watch football games on Sunday. I would watch the NFL with an antenna because YouTube TV was always behind Twitter. Yeah. The antenna, though, over the air was always ahead of Twitter because it was faster than cable. So I would always watch it so nothing would get spoiled for me. I was the one spoiling games for everybody else.
Yeah.
I love my antenna, but I haven't used it now in a couple years. Also, my TV is in the basement now. And previously, I lived on a second floor apartment. Now I have my big TV in the basement and the reception not especially good.
Yeah.
Next headline for me from college basketball. McNeese State, well, actually, they just go by McNeese now. They open their run through the NCAA tournament tomorrow. They play Clemson, an upset that you and I, Spencer, both picked, along with every freaking other game in the bracket. Well, McNeese's coach is leaving as soon as they are eliminated from the tournament this year. Will Wade has agreed to a contract to become the next head coach of NC State men's basketball, according to Pack Pride. That is the North Carolina State 24/7 site. The current McNeese coach will finish the remainder of the season before joining the Wolfpack ahead of the 25-26 campaign. Wade was asked about this at his press conference earlier today. Quote, "We addressed it head on. I talked to them about it on Saturday. Here's what it is. Here's where we are. It was just me and our players, and we talked about it. I'm aware of what I have got going on. They're aware of what we've got going on. You just hit it head on. We're all on the same page with everything." I feel bad for the McNeese players because now you've got all this other crap going on. And instead of talking about the team, this is all just about Will Wade going and taking a better job. That being said, I also respect Wade being blunt with his players and not doing the, "Oh, no, guys, I'm committed to you. Yeah, I'm committed to you long term. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere." And then dipping. No, I want a better job. I have an offer on the table to go to a power high major conference on Tobacco Road, and I am interested in it. And I want you guys to be aware of that. Most coaches do not do that. And frankly, I respect Will Wade for doing it. There's a lot of reasons to probably not have a lot of respect for Will Wade, but I have a lot of respect for Will Wade for saying that. I remember Matt Rule, when he was at Baylor, said the same thing. He would tell recruits, "Hey, as long as I am in Waco, I am committed to you. I will pour my heart and soul into making sure Baylor is a success. But I want you to know that if I get a call from the NFL, I am going to take it because I want to be an NFL head coach someday." And I respected him for that because all these coaches, so many of them lie to their players. I don't give a bleep about North Carolina from Roy. I mean, I know that was 22 years ago now, but there's a lot of lying. There's a lot of misdirection. I respect a coach that just says, "Yes, I am interested in a bigger job." And North Carolina State, by the way, just got itself a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
Because Will Wade can coach. He's a jerk, but he can coach. Any other headlines for you?
Yes, one more here for me. It's that time of year where the NFL will hold its league meetings pretty soon. And it's also time where proposals for rule changes come about. This from NFL.com. Playoff seating change, tush-push ban among 2025 NFL club playing rules, bylaws, resolutions, proposals. A potential transformative set of rules were submitted by a handful of NFL clubs today. Perhaps the most significant is to revamp playoff seeding submitted by Detroit. The proposal would amend the current seeding format to allow wildcard qualifiers to be seeded above division champions if they finish with a better regular season record. The number one overall seed would remain the division winner with the best record. The proposal also states that, quote, if two or more playoff participants finish with the same one-loss tied percentage at the end of the regular season, priority shall be given to a team or teams that are division champions. This change would have affected the most recent playoffs in 4 separate games on Wild Card Weekend. Instead of hosting the 11-6 Chargers on opening weekend of the postseason, the Texans would have traveled to Los Angeles to take on that team. On the NFC side, it would have changed things and would have made the Eagles the 2 seed, the Vikings 3, Commanders 4, Packers 5, Buccaneers 6, and Rams the 7th seed, which means the Commanders, I believe, would have hosted a game instead of having to go to the Bucs.
I don't like this. I think winning your division should matter.
Yes.
I think winning your division should matter. I would say to all of the main ideas that were brought up, I would say no to all of them. I don't want to change the playoff thing. I think winning your division should matter. I don't want to get rid of the tush push. I know you and I disagree on that. Those are the ones I would say no. I just leave it as it is.
Well, your team doesn't. You're an owner of the team, and they don't agree with your side of it.
Our CEO, Mark Murphy, does not. He speaks for us at league meetings, but we do not always have to agree. And I do not agree with him on this either. I don't. We got to get to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk ahead of the first 4 with today's final word. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk. We are out of here early because of the first four. So, Spencer, let's get a final word.
Yeah, it's college basketball. It's the best time of year. March Madness. It's a little bit of taste of it last night with a great first four game. Hopefully there'll be more tonight. Just a reminder, go to our social media pages, find our bracket challenge. You got to get that done by 11:15 tomorrow before the 8-9 game between Louisville and Creighton tips off. Join our 580 Sports Talk and Friends ESPN bracket challenge.
Come see if you can beat us. You can.
Yeah.
You can't beat me. You'll beat Spencer.
I'm pretty sure Dan submitted the bracket. I think he has. I'm going to text him to double check.
Text him, make sure he has. Final word for me, man. Last night, one of the best I've ever had in my professional life. I'm so lucky to be a part, and my part is less than 1%, but being there for Washburn men's basketball, clinching a berth in the Elite Eight for the first time in nearly 2.5 decades. It was a blast. So much fun. Everybody who came out to Lee Arena, you guys were awesome last night. Such a blast. I can't get over it. Awesome to see that Washburn team send out the current version of Lee Arena on a high note. Heading on to Evansville, Indiana next week for the Elite Eight. It's going to be a blast as well. What a fun night. What a historic, fun night for Washburn men's basketball. We are back tomorrow with a full show from 3 until 6. We hope to be joined by CJ Moore. Might be a little bit busy with the tournament, but we'll get in touch with CJ. Rick Peterson will for sure join us. We got a bunch to get to tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. Until then, for Dan, Dan's not even here. For Spencer, I'm Brendan. Good Lord, I got to get out of here. This has been 580 Sports Talk.